gummy bear represents cytosine, the orange gummy bear represents thymine, and the red represents adenine. The toothpicks represent hydrogen bonds, and when two things are adjacent to each other, they are covalently bonded, except in the case of the RNA primer, which has a toothpick there.
And also, just to say, the adenine binds with thymine with 2 hydrogen bonds, and cytosine and guanine bind with 3 hydrogen bonds. And the adenine and guanine are purines because they consist of two carbon ring sugars, 2 carbon rings. And the cytosine and thymine consist of a single carbon ring, which means that it's a pyrimidine. And that means that if a purine and a pyrimidine bind together as each of these, it means that the width between the 2 bases are constant throughout the bases.
Okay, so to represent the leading strand, we just have this, not this with the RNA primase.
And this is the helicase, and as the helicase moves down the DNA, it breaks the hydrogen bonds between the bases. And that means that the DNA polymerase 3 has to come along the same direction for the leading strand. And it goes from 5' to 3', so it also follows along, encoding the rest of the complementary DNA. And just to show that this is the lagging strand, we already put an RNA primer beforehand, just to show that this is the lagging strand. And this represents the RNA primase, which lays down the RNA primer. And that means that the DNA polymerase 3 comes down, coding all of the DNA, the rest of the DNAs, and then the DNA polymerase 1 comes, replacing the RNA primers which have been placed in different origins of the DNA. And that means that it replaces the RNA primers with the DNA, because we want all of it to be DNA. And finally, this represents the DNA ligase, which combines all of the segments, which are called the Okazaki fragments. And the covalent bond between the phosphate and the deoxyribose are connected by the DNA ligase, and that is how DNA replication is done.